myself by a window. That was a good idea, Tara.
Yeah, I was afraid it was going to be too bright.
No, it looks nice. I could probably do that, but no, it's too late now.
Out my window, it's like a blizzard. Snow is pouring down right now.
Oh, you have just the exact right light. That's the way light is supposed to come. It's supposed to hit you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's very flattering.
I hope
Ladies,
so.
you guys are ready to go for the broadcast.
All right.
Yay!
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Alyssa from RT, and we are here today to help you through your Friday afternoon, where we talk with Cecilia Tan and Tara Sumi. They are erotica authors, romance authors, and also buddies, right?
Pretty much.
True story. So we're going to start. They each have books out very recently, so we are going to start by making them tell us their elevator pitches, etc. Ready, go. Cecilia, you start.
Okay. So elevator pitch for Taking the Lead was literally my editor was like, "What do you want to do next? Let's do more contemporary BDSM," because my previous series was this pretty successful contemporary BDSM story. And I said, well, I threw out some ideas, this, that, the other, and she was like, what about rock stars? And I was like, oh, I can write rock stars all day long. And she said, bring it. So that's how basically the series came about.
And that's a series starter, correct?
Yeah, it's a series starter. So, and the other thing I wanted to do is I made her the billionaire this time. So
yeah, that was a nice twist.
Yeah, so I get to have the trappings of the billionaire romance with the limousines and the glitzy backgrounds and so forth and so on, but she's the one with the money and he's the rock star, so he's the bad boy, and and because she's a billionaire, she doesn't need him for anything except her emotional and physical needs. So she's not like she needs a job from him, she doesn't need any of that kind of thing, so it's really all about the chemistry between the two of them. So that was fun. That was really fun.
It was really fun. I enjoyed reading it. All right, Tara, you're up.
All right. My book is The Master. It is book 7 in the Submissive series, but it can be read as standalone. And it tells the story of Sasha, who was injured in that scene about 10 months before the story takes place, and it's her coming back into the scene with a dominant who was very stern, and he's called the Badass Brit.
So, you guys kind of have like, Cecilia, you have like a fun, rock stars. What is it about rock stars? They're everywhere right now. What do you think? I mean, what do you think the appeal is? And then, because they're everywhere right now, how do you write one that's you're not like wah wah,
Well, so the kind of interesting thing is that all of a sudden rock stars are everywhere, and it's like I think the bad boy thing is really reaching a kind of peak where it's like people want motorcycle clubs, MMA fighters, whatever. And the thing is, I've been writing rockstar romance for a really long time. So, but I mostly wrote it as MM. Like I've been writing this ongoing serial called Darren's Guitar Chronicles, which I literally started writing his story. I started writing Darren's story when I was a teenager myself. I mean, so I've been writing this for a really long time. And I used to be in the music industry. I worked in radio. I managed a band, a bunch of stuff. So I have all this sort of background information that I can kind of bring in.
Do you know real life rock stars?
Somewhat, yeah, here and there. I mean, I don't keep up with that many of them now, but, here and there. But it's kind of funny because part of what I'm seeing in the reviews in this book is people are like, Axel is so realistic. And like some people actually they don't like that almost. They're like, I just wanted a fantasy rock star. I'm like, well, but this is a rock star who actually has, has to go to rehearsal and, I don't know, that kind of stuff. So it's like, but that's the fun part about him is that I wrote him as a baby dom, or what we call in the BDSM scene a baby dom,
right.
Just developing his style as a dom and whatnot. Right. So as opposed to one of these billionaire doms who's like already got the dungeon built in his mansion, it's like he's kind of making it up as he goes along and finding out what's new and exciting to him about being dominant, and sort of like he's always had rough sex, but this is his first chance to really be like, ooh, this role-playing thing is fun, and I like giving commands and whatnot like that. So that was really a lot of the fun of it too, because he's this irrepressible lead singer character. It's just like he doesn't hold back anything. So
right.
If he goes for something, he goes for it. So that was kind of fun too. And and he's in this position where it's like he's a rock star. He should be able to do whatever the hell he wants, sexually now, right? You know, he's in that position. So that was the big thing with me. So.
And meanwhile, Tara, your Dom is the more like experienced guy. He's coming out of a long-term relationship, and your heroine is like literally scarred. So how did you approach that kind of more, sensitive?
Well, I knew that because she was scarred, she wasn't ready for anything physical at the beginning of the book. So it actually takes a while before they do anything physical. So a lot of the beginning of the book was more mental play, which is something I had never written before, and that was interesting to delve into that aspect of the BDSM was, mentally what's involved in learning to trust your partner before you get to that physical scene.
And how did you handle, so that was your response to her, because readers, we saw what happened to her in the previous book. So how have the reviews been? How's the response been?
The response has been great. It's actually been my most well-received book to date. So it's been really great. I love this story. It means a lot to me. So to see that everybody else is embracing it as much as I am, that just means the world to me.
Yeah, it had to be kind of nerve-wracking to write, right? I was like nervous a little reading it when I realized who the heroine was.
It was, and everybody's always been like, when's Cold Story? When's Cold Story? So for me, that was a lot of pressure because I'm like, I hope that that people, I hope it meets their expectations.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are friends in real life. How did it all begin?
Well, we got to know each other because of writing similar things in romance. So it's kind of cool that I think this is the funny part, is that first, when you're meeting another author, I had already read some of Tara's work, and we knew each other. I knew your name through fandom circles and whatnot, but then did we actually first meet at like a party at RT, I think?
We did.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to say it was like Cindy Aleo or somebody who was like, you two need to meet.
That sounds like there were cupcakes involved.
Yeah. It's so funny though. Like we went out to lunch at RWA last year, and you think, these two BDSM authors are getting together. What are they going to talk about? I think we talked about Disney for the entire time.
I think we did. Yeah.
It's like we talked about BDSM for like 5 minutes, and then it was like, yeah, the whole rest of the time, all we talked about was Disney World.
I mean, Disney World is also wonderful. So, so do you trade writing tips or manuscripts or ideas or?
On both of these books, we traded manuscripts on these, and that was really cool because I think this is my favorite book of yours that you've written, and I think it is because it starts with that mental aspect and the building trust. And I have a copy of it right here. Love this book. So now I'm recommending it to everyone. And I'm like, have you read this series? Oh, you can just start with this one. Don't feel like, oh my God, I have to read 7 books to get up to it. No, just start here, and then you can skip around.
Yeah, when I heard that you were doing a Rockstar Dom series, I was like, ooh, I got to get my hands on that. I need the next one. ASAP.
That's the one I'm rewriting right now, so soon.
Who's in the next one? Did you announce that? I feel like I saw it somewhere, but I don't want to say.
Yeah. So the next one is Mal, the guitar player, who is the dark, broody one, and Gwen, the little sister, who is the perky, blonde, sunny one. So the opposites attract.
At least in romance novels, right?
Yeah, I just posted like photo references for both of them on my blog yesterday, I think. So, yeah. So everybody's like that, and I've already been getting email from people who are like, "When are we getting Mal's story?" And I was like, "Oh, can you tell that I'm setting you up to?" Yeah.
My guess was I figured you were definitely going to do Gwen. That was my guess.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then the third book is going to be the drummer, Chino, who we haven't seen that much of yet, but and who is secretly Dave Navarro in my fantasies, but that's okay.
So you worked in the music industry. I was struck by how like they set up the studio space. It all felt very realistic to me. What other aspects of your old life did you put into this one?
Yeah, just a lot of the background stuff, the things that are stressing them out about their record company and fame and, the expectations of different people. And then, of course, our heroine, who is also in the movie industry, is having those same kind of stresses where it's like she's working in this industry that has all these expectations for your appearance and when you're a woman working in media, it's like you're supposed to present yourself a certain way. And so there's all these themes in the book about your public image needing to be a certain way versus how you conduct yourself in your private life. And, how do you be authentic to yourself? And then, if you have an erotic life that you're supposed to be keeping a secret, how does that jibe with trying to live an authentic life? So a lot of the themes of the book are all about that and kind of figuring out, I don't know, your public image versus being true to yourself. So, yeah.
And Tara, you in your series, the club, would you say it's a little more out in the open, or is it just because most of the people we spend time with are in the club?
I think because most people we spend time with are in the club. And there's their camaraderie is most of their friends to hang out with that I show is within the club, so it's known, not so much a secret.
Right. So how do you think how do they feel towards the outer world? Are they like, do they,
That's actually interesting because in the next book, the one I'm doing the edits on now, it's actually somebody is being blackmailed. It's Abby's boss, Megan, who is she's being blackmailed. So we got to kind of see what, her feelings about that when, if this life is going to be exposed and known to people.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
That was fun, writing the blackmail.
I always like a good blackmail plot. It's conflict, right?
Exactly.
How do you feel conflict can be hard to write sometimes in contemporary romances because you have to keep these two people that are seemingly perfect together apart for 400 pages? How do you handle that?
Oh gosh, what's funny is my current rewrite him in the middle of. Oh, I have a picture of him. Actually, I can show you. The cover of Wild Licks looks like this.
Ooh.
Actually, they're doing the thing they did.
That's a beautiful cover.
The paperback's gonna look like this, and the ebook version's gonna look like that. So it's like, they have the hot version and the tame version, but they're gonna. My editor was basically like, oh, what's the external conflict keeping these characters apart, and ultimately we kind of decided actually that it's really just their own internal hang-ups that are keeping them apart. So
that's interesting. So you didn't write an external, really?
Yeah, I mean the external stuff is, each of them has their different things going on in their lives and whatnot, and part of it is about trying to figure out how does a relationship fit into your to your world, but it's like Gwen and Mal just want to create a world unto their own in a way. When they get together, it's like a fantasy world of their own. So I said that's I think we need to keep the focus on that actually, because it really is just breaking down the walls inside each one of them that are the challenges, as opposed to we thought about. But I said it just doesn't feel right to stick an external plot on this, like I don't know. Like, no way am I doing he's actually secretly already married, or their parents object to it or something. I'm like, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, they're grown-ups, right?
Yeah, so I'm just like, in fact, if anything, it's like other people in their lives are pushing them together more. They're like, you two would be perfect for each other, whatever. It's like, here, date my best friend's sister, whatever. And it's just like, and they're the ones that are resisting for all different reasons. So... but it is tricky because if you just create something that feels too artificial, it's like in the modern world, it's like, I don't know. So I just created lots of internal conflict.
And Tara, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I think a lot of mine is internal conflict too. I mean, obviously with the next one, the blackmail is the issue because she's being blackmailed to get information from him. So, she's drawn to him, but yes, she's kind of betraying him too in the same breath. So you have that internal struggle with, I can't tell him what I'm really doing, and that keeps them apart.
Mm.
Well, and in the Master too, it's a fair amount of internal conflict, right? Because she has a lot to get over, and he's trying to recover from his last relationship, and
yeah, because she's trying to get to a point where she feels like she's supposed to be with other doms. The point of the training is to make her comfortable to play with anybody, but she only feels comfortable with him. So In her mind, she's like, the training has been a miserable failure because I only feel comfortable with him, and I don't want to play with anybody else.
Yeah. So tell us about your first, why did you first decide to write BDSM?
I think it just grew out of the story. You know, when I had the two characters in mind, it just happened. I saw the entire scene play in my head, and that's just where it went. So I said, well, we'll go with it and see where it takes us. And that's how the submissive was born.
Kind of cool. I first started writing BDSM, I mean, when I had graduated college and was trying to figure out what to do to start my writing career. And this is the early 90s. Oh, hi. Hi, Oolong. This is my cat. One of the three cats that is in charge of me here, my supervisors.
Mine's asleep right over there in the chair.
But yeah, it was 1991, and I was still looking to connect with the BDSM scene personally myself. At that point, it was just in my fantasies, and I wrote a short story called "Telepaths Don't Need Safe Words," and I ended up self-publishing it back when self-publishing was really a non-trivial thing. I was working in book publishing, and so I was like, all right, I'll publish my own book. Because literally no one else would publish it. It's like paranormal romance didn't exist yet. It's a story that combines BDSM and science fiction. It was like science fiction was like, oh no, we can't have any sex because we're nerds or something. I don't know. It was, and and what if children might read it? I'm like, just you don't sell it to children. That's how you keep children from reading it. I don't know. It was an odd time in our history. Let's put it that way. And yeah. So that book just took off within the BDSM community because there was so little actual. There was almost nothing you could read other than Penthouse Forum, which was kind of cheesy and not that great, and like Victorian novels, and like the Story of O. That was it, and the Anne Rice like Sleeping Beauty books, and that was it. It was like everybody had those books in their shelves because there was no other good BDSM erotica out there, and so I published this little teeny chapbook, and it was like I would go to conventions and people would show up to my autographings with like dog-eared copies of it that they had mail ordered, and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. So yeah, that started my whole writing career and how I went in this whole direction. I didn't think I was going to be an erotica writer. I should have known, but I didn't think I was going to be an erotica writer. I thought I was going to be a science fiction writer, and well, that's not exactly how it turned out. I still write science fiction too, but yeah.
And how do you think
much more known for?
How do you think the public's perception has changed since 1991?
Oh, drastically, yeah. I mean, it was already changing a lot before 50 Shades of Grey came along, I'll say that. I mean, one of the things that being an author in BDSM so early, did was it put me in a position in the community to do a lot of education, and I'm the founder of the Fetish Fair Flea Market, for example. I'm one of the people who put that. It's the largest community event in New England together. It happens twice a year. It's coming up next weekend, actually, in Warwick, Rhode Island. So I still go to it, even though I'm not in charge of it anymore. It's really been interesting because it went from, like, we would try to hold this event and hotels would be like, okay, so wait a minute, so this is going to be some kind of prostitution thing? And we're like, no, we're mostly suburban couples who like to get together and we just want to go shopping for corsets and floggers. And they're like, what are floggers? And, I mean, it was like this whole process of education, and now it's like, now people can literally just hold up the book 50 Shades of Grey and go, it's kind of like this. And people go, oh, okay. It's sort of, just 20 years of trying to educate people in the background, and now it's like, oh, okay, pop culturally, people at least understand what it is now. It's like you can say BDSM and people don't go, what?
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot less. There's still stigma on it. People still worry about their neighbors freaking out or whatever. But it's just a lot calmer now, I think, because there's a level of acceptance that wasn't there 20 years ago.
How do you see it, Tara?
No, I agree. I think it's a lot more mainstream, if you will, erotica and BDSM. It is. You can talk about it. I don't have the sexy covers. I have the flowers, but but I have a lot of readers who still say that that they like the flowers on the covers because they feel like they can carry it out in public. I mean,
right. Yeah, they're tasteful. They're gorgeous.
Thank you.
Well, they're beautiful, and I do think that they signify, like, people know what that means now. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
The object covers are, you know, it's understood.
Right.
It's known.
Mm-hmm. The story, yeah. Yeah, my previous series has the strings of pearls, and yeah, exactly.
I like the Hot Man covers too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, my publisher didn't go that direction for the Rockstar series. I think they just.
I like your covers though; those are good.
Yeah,
they're great too, and it's interesting. You know, the different. It's got a little more of a contemporary romance feel. The contemporary Rockstar romance feel. Right. Would you say?
Right. And I think because they went for the kind of grungy look with the interesting fonts and whatnot. It's a little more like it's not quite new adult.
I was just gonna say it looks like a new adult cover, but it's kind of, they're young, right? So
yeah, she's fresh out of business school, and they're like 24, 25, so they're not, pretty young. And in fact, then Gwen is younger in the next book, because the next book picks up like a month later, but she's 2 years younger, that kind of stuff. So.
Well, and today there's so much genre blending.
Mm. Yep.
There's new adult that does have a lot of sex in it that we like at RT we would put in the erotica section.
Right.
There's some like Christina Lauren we put in the erotica section, but then there's some that just is sexy like Abby Glines, and we put that in Y, and then at the end of the YA section in new adult. So
Right. Yeah, I love Christina Lauren. In fact, I read Sweet Filthy Boy because I picked it up at RT when it was the book of the year.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like,
there was no disagreement over that one. We all usually there's a lot of blood let over deciding the book of the year, but that year it was not too bad.
That was a great book.
Yeah, really, really great book. Loved it. Now I'm behind on another series though, because they're up to like book 4 in that series already, and I'm just like, I can't read fast enough. I can't read and write at the same time. That's why. So I'm always behind every series I want.
Do you find that it's hard for you to read in your genre?
I have to read after I've finished writing a book. I cannot read anything while I'm writing a book, or stuff kind of, I don't know, influences get mixed in, the voices of characters kind of, just, it's like picking up people's accent when you visit another country. And it's like, I've learned that I'm better off, I have to wait, and then when I've turned in a manuscript, I reward myself by reading a couple of books usually. So.
Yeah, it's same for me. I find that if like I'm reading and I read something that's in present tense, I'll end up writing in present tense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you can't do that. So I can't read while I'm writing either.
I met an author once who told me that she only read the classics while she was writing because she figured like if she picked up like some Dickens or something tone, like that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, instead of something more contemporary that she could be accused of copying.
Maybe if I was writing steampunk that would work, but yeah, I don't know if with this book that would quite.
Yeah, I don't know what classic.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I mean, Jane Austen's been done, so I don't think that's probably a good idea.
True. Yeah, but I do like to read things that are out of my genre because I like to expand sort of the way I'm thinking, whatever, and so it's like. I'll read a historical or something where I'm not writing historical, but then I'll get ideas to write a historical, and I'm like, no, you have enough books in enough genres already. Can you please save one that's just for enjoyment purposes only?
Well, how do you feel about the, some say to build an author brand these days you should just write in one.
Oh yeah.
Genre. I mean, what do you think? I mean, it's hard. It's also hard because it's a creative profession, and how do you kind of guide your mind in that manner?
Yeah, my life would be so much easier if all I did was write one thing, but that's just not how it works. So yeah, I know it's like if you put up a restaurant sign, you can't have pizza one night, sushi one night, fried chicken one night. It's like you've got to do one thing that people come to you for, but I've just never been able to do that. I just can't. So, it's like I write some gay, I write some science fiction, I write some erotica, I write some not erotica, I write some, So I don't know. I split my newsletter into different sections where I'm like, okay, and now
You
for
just have more tabs on your website. It's fine.
yeah, exactly.
You
And
know.
then for people like this, here's news about that, and for the people like this, here's news about that, and
I mean, it's true because you understand the premise, but then as a creative endeavor, if you are just writing, if you're trying to write to your brand, then the book could not be as good, right?
right,
If it doesn't come
right.
to you.
So I just
Yeah,
yeah.
How do you handle it, Tara?
I actually wrote a bit of a suspense thriller last year called Obscured, and I just self-published it, and I self-published it as Tara Sumi writing as Cat Waters.
Yeah.
So people wouldn't pick it up expecting a submissive novel because there was no BDSM involved in it. It was completely different than anything that I had written in the submissive series. And I did want there to be that delineation between what people were using and what it was, what they were getting.
And how did that work out?
It worked out well. I mean, I didn't have anybody pick it up and say, "Oh my goodness, I expected this to be, a BDSM novel. Where's the dom?" So,
yeah, you literally put a different brand name on it. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, smart. Yeah, I should have done something like that, but no.
But then, did you feel did you feel like your old readers crossed over and you had new readers coming back, or was it more like two separate populations?
I think they're mostly two separate. I mean, I had some people who read both, but I think for the most part it was two separate sets of readers. That's what I think.
I've actually been kind of surprised, though, how many of my readers do cross over from the non-erotic gay coming-of-age story to the heavy-duty heterosexual BDSM. It's been kind of fascinating to me, where then I'll get notes from them, or I'll get email, or I'll get comments who are like, "Oh, I can't wait for your such and such." I'm like, "Oh gosh, I didn't realize you would like that," So I do go ahead and cross promote a little bit, where I'll be like, "Oh, and by the way, guys, this other book is coming out." But because some people just love to read, and I mean, my tagline is what I'm trying to remember what it is. It's I usually put in my bio, writer of passionate fiction, and that's the one commonality, is that I'm always writing about people's inner passions coming to the fore, and some people are like, great, they'll follow me anywhere, but then there are the ones who only like pizza, only like sushi, or only like fried chicken, and so they've just picked one that's right for them.
Right. I mean, personally, as a reader, I read anything. If I have an author that I like, I will read whatever they put out. But I mean, obviously, I work for RT. I'm a voracious reader. So I think it maybe depends on your just personal, And there's so many. How have you found the changes in the publishing industry? There's so many more books out. Just like. I mean, you see the numbers and you're like, is that like how can that be correct? Like, how has that changed your career thus far? I know, deep thoughts. Deep thoughts on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed my career that much. It does mean that it's a more crowded field. I mean, that there are just so many more choices out there for readers. On the other hand, I think it's been good in a way, because part of my whole point of writing erotica originally was that I wanted to create a world where there was more of it, where there was tolerance for more kinds of freedom of expression, of erotic expression, and that's what we have now. So it's like, totally. It worked, in a lot of ways it worked, where I didn't like that there was this wall between science fiction was over here and erotica was over here, and they weren't allowed to touch, and it's like, now you've got werewolves, space aliens, angels, anything you want can cross over to anything, and that's what I love, and people are doing it, and it takes 8 million authors to really cover all the bases then. So
that's true.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting time to be part of that, so I like that. I mean, maybe, I guess, if my goal was to become a billionaire, then I should be the one like queen of it all, but that's really not me. Not my goal. I like to see a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Yeah, I like to see a nice big erotica section in the bookstore. That's
I mean,
That's
I've
much better.
definitely seen a change in attitudes over the past decade for sure in erotica. People are a lot more, and then a lot of that, the sexiness has kind of moved into other genres that aren't erotica, right?
Uh-huh.
So,
Yep, that's right.
how do you feel about the changes, Tara?
I like it. I mean, I think with everybody that with especially with self-publishing, there's just a lot more variety, and I think that is breaking down those walls, like Cecilia said, between the genres. So you don't have to shelf the book in this is historical, or this is
Right.
paranormal. You can have that cross mixture of the genres, and I think that's a really because that helps us all.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and that's one of the great things about digital is then, yeah, people can find you because they're not wandering through the bookstore trying to figure out which one shelf did they put you on.
Right,
They can
exactly.
keyword search or whatever. So, yeah. Yeah,
And the little
exactly.
people who read this also read. I like that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I was just saying yesterday on Twitter that this is why RT is so important now, though, is because there's so many books out there. People are desperate in a way for what are the recommendations of the good stuff, and of course everybody has their own idea of what the good stuff is. So this is why Goodreads is so big,
Mm-hmm.
and people are always searching for the person whose reviews they agree with. I mean, like you pick a movie reviewer who you agree with,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It's like also, it's like, okay, if that guy hated it, I'm going to like it, that kind of stuff. So it's just like
Word of mouth
more.
is always so important because if I know you and if you're my friend and you tell me this book is good, I'm going to pick it up and read it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Walking in a bookstore and just haphazardly coming across a book on a shelf.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
Exactly.
like the call of book lovers everywhere, right? Like,
Right.
I read this book, it was so good, you have to read it. That's how we communicate. So the internet makes it a little easier for you to find your particular people.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So, what have you read recently that you've been particularly excited about? I have to plug my computer in. I'm moving. Keep talking.
Well, I finally read Courtney Millen's The Duchess War, which is free on Amazon, I think, right now because it's a series starter. And there's another series then that now I read the whole series, and I'm never gonna have time because it was so good. And it was like I was like, oh, I'll read a historical because I'm not writing historical, and it was fantastic. And so it's like, and she's a writer who I literally just got to know through Twitter because it's like one of those, like, oh, many people you follow her, and I was constantly seeing retweets from her, and I was like, all right, great, let's follow her. And then met her at a convention and was like, oh, she's really nice, I'll follow her, kind of a thing. And yeah, so yeah, that was my most recent favorite. And then
What about you, Tara?
I just read one of Maya Banks. It was not her Breathless trilogy. It was the trilogy that came after that. I forget which one it was. It had the third one had like a purple and yellow cover. I can't remember. Taking It All, maybe. I can't remember, but it was really good. I liked it. It had a married couple that was BDSM. They were going through some struggles.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was a very interesting dynamic between those two couple. That couple.
I should say this. My favorite subgenre, which like doesn't exist, is established relationship, where it's like I don't know why, and I'm like why am I so into this? It's like Telepath Don't Need Safe Words was an established relationship thing, and it's like, yeah, I know that the standard is it's about how two people who don't know each other meet and how they come to that first love and whatever, but I really love stories where they're already together, and then not only do you find out eventually through the backstory how did they originally meet, but the story is about them sort of deepening that connection and that connection being challenged, so it's like if I start writing romantic suspense, what I want is for it to be an established couple who are,
Are you going to start writing romantic suspense?
Maybe in a couple of years after I'm done with all the BDSM contracts. And
I feel like there's a lot of romantic suspense kind of in your. There's a lot of romantic suspense deals I see being made, and I personally like that. Sometimes I feel a little like you're missing out a little bit when you read a romance and they just get together at the end, and then you're like, oh man, I just spent like 400 pages like waiting for this to happen, and then I get like 4 pages of like her in labor or whatever, with her kids. But
Right.
That's when real life really starts, is at the happily ever after. Because that's when that's such a small part of a couple's life is up to that point, and it's like
Right.
the rest of their life is that happily ever after, and that's where all the good, juicy stuff really happens.
Right. Right. Well, this is what I like about, so in other genres that are not romance, but that are, say, science fiction or other things, it's like then you can have the sequels not be about the relationship, but be about whatever the other external plot is, right? So it's like, so, yeah. In my mind, I'm like, if I wrote romantic suspense with a touch of science fiction, then it would be more like, but I don't know. We'll see. Down the road, I mean, my next series after this one is done is I'm writing a book for Tor called The Vanished Chronicles, which is going to be urban fantasy. So
Cool. Well, you could do, established in urban fantasy, right? You don't need the HEA.
Well, there's going to be some, but it's going to be very romancy at the same time also, where it's like there's going to be an overall plot, but I'm going to put a different couple in each book. So
okay.
Yeah, so you do have to read them in order, but each romantic element will be finished off in each book. So the cliffhangers will not be about the relationship; they'll be about other stuff.
I think that's nice. The cliffhangers are they're kind of a big thing, but at the same time, people are very divided about them.
Yes. Oh, I know.
And I think I kind of find that with our readers, from what I've heard, the key is the worst is the surprise cliffhanger. When you're reading and you're like looking at the percentage left in your manuscript, or you're like looking at the pages left and you're like, son of a bee, this is a cliffhanger when you don't know it.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst one.
I agree 100%. I mean, the previous series, the Struck by Lightning series, it's like Slow Surrender was marketed as if it was a standalone, and it was the first book of a trilogy, and it was always meant to be the first book of a trilogy, and it was when publishers went through that craze where they like wanted everything to be like 50 Shades of Grey. So I literally had pitched it as a standalone, and they were like, no, everything has to be a trilogy now. And I'm like, okay, fine, I can make it a trilogy. And
whatever,
whatnot, and put more subplots in, and whatnot, because it's really fun to take that same couple and to carry them through 3 whole books, where essentially, and it was, I was like, I want to see how this couple work together once they finally get together. And so it's like the third book in a way is like there's a cliffhanger at the end of book 2, but they get together, they make up right in the beginning of book 3. So book 3 is really them against the world, because I wanted there to be like the book that's really about his hang-ups, the book that's about her hang-ups, and then the book where they get to be together, because I'm like, if it's a 3-book series, and but yeah, a lot of readers were really angry when they got to the end of that first book, and were just like, nowhere in the marketing stuff, like on Amazon, and that was before Amazon had like the little like series carousel that comes up and whatever, and it was just like, you couldn't really tell unless you dug really deep to figure out that it was the first book of the series. And a lot of people were like, I would have just waited for all 3 books to be out. Now I'm angry. 1 star. And I was like, that's totally justified reaction. I'm and those died down once the other books came out, and people didn't have to wait 6 months to find out.
Well, I mean, I do feel like our readers seem okay if that's what they know they're getting into.
Right, if they know it's all about consensuality, right? It's like,
especially for romance fans, like you have an expectation,
Yeah, and it's like the contract with the reader's broken if it's not, if you're not fulfilling your promises. And yeah, I really did feel like it was like we non-consensually put them in a delayed gratification scene. So I was like, sorry, it's coming. No, really, I'll get to it.
So Tara, you're working on. So you write this was book 7 in the Mask in your series, right? How do you keep things fresh? How do you keep readers interested? People are still asking for character stories. How does it all work?
Well, since I expanded it and I combined the 2 series, and we have the whole Partners in Play group now, and there's different people involved in that group, so that's given me an outlet to explore some different relationships. I've asked people how long is the series going to go on. I said I'll keep on writing until people, as long as people want to keep reading it, because there's all these couples that I could potentially put together. I mean, you could keep on going on forever. I don't want to do that, but
right. Do you have an end point in mind, or a? Do you have a final like Julianne Long just finished her Pennyroyal Green, and it was like always you knew what couple was going to be at the end. Is that or do you just you just
haven't got to that point yet?
You what? I'm sorry.
I haven't got to that point yet where I know where the final couple is going to be. Have a couple of ideas, but I haven't done that yet. But I am working on a new series that's totally different, and hopefully there'll be some more information about that soon.
Or are you teasing us?
I'm teasing you. It's a new series.
What genre? Also erotica?
Also erotica, yes. BDSM. Yes.
And who do you find the fans? Who are your readers? Who do you think? Do you get a sense? Are they?
As far as the demographics?
Yeah.
I'm saying most of them, obviously they're female, probably between the ages of like early 20s on up.
Cecilia, do you find that you have different readers for your different genres?
Yeah,
that you write?
But it's a little hard to tell because the reader engagement on the internet is obviously the subset of people who engage with authors on the internet. So,
Well, and you never know who's who on the internet anyway, right?
Well, that also. But like Darren's Guitar Chronicles, I get a lot of comments. It's posted like it's the character's blog, so it's a serial and it appears twice a week. And people leave comments on it, and they can leave comments for me, or they can leave comments for the main character, and he answers them. So because people will be like, I can't believe you did that. Why, whatever. They'll be trying to give him advice, and stuff. Or they're like, don't you know that's not going to work out, and whatever. It's great. It's really fantastic. And there are a lot of female readers, especially ones who come from the fanfic background, who are used to commenting on things. But there are a lot of men reading it, and there are a lot of men commenting too. Which is sort of interesting because it didn't kind of start out that way, but then especially a lot of older gay men who kind of recognized Darren's story as very similar to their own sort of coming out and coming of age. Because it's a period piece. It takes place in the 1980s and 90s. So it's like, it's sort of interesting.
Way back when.
Yeah, the number of people who connect with it. And it's like, we call it BC, before cell phones. And, the number of...
Yeah.
Yeah, the number of scenes where someone is wandering around an airport trying to find someone else, it's like, that's how life was then.
I legit lost my brother at the airport once. For real. Yeah. In like 1995, I think.
And and when your lead character is a rock star flake, okay, he's not a flake, but he does occasionally, whatever. At one point flies to Chicago and he's supposed to meet someone and doesn't remember the name of the person he's supposed to meet, and isn't sure if he's meeting that person or they literally have no, he's like, I don't know what hotel I'm supposed to go to, I don't know, so he's at a payphone calling an office in New York to ask them if they know, whatever, and it's like, yeah, that kind of a thing. Just like, yeah, this is what life was like before cell phones.
I have heard authors say that the existence of cell phones and the internet makes it harder to plot. Have you guys found that to be true?
You have fewer excuses to keep the characters from talking. I mean, it's like, can't you just text her? It's like, yeah, so you can't, it's harder to manufacture those misunderstandings just because somebody didn't communicate, so.
Yeah, couldn't they Google that? Couldn't they Google that?
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, can they be that misinformed? I don't know. Yeah.
Here, let me Google that for you.
Exactly.
All right, so we have a few minutes left. What's the one thing that you guys wanted to, in particular, talk about?
We talk about Disney? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I told you we could talk about Disney all day long.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Which Disney princess are you? No, I'm kidding.
What's your favorite Disney movie?
Yeah. Well, my recent favorite is Maleficent, of course, because I'm all about the villains, so, yeah.
Yeah. I like Tangled.
You can't pick a bad one, though, really. I mean...
My favorite has always been Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted my name to be Aurora when I was growing up.
There's a character named Aurora in the next book, actually.
See?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, and she tries to tell the heroine, the hero, how to spell it, and whatever, and she can't believe he's never seen the movie, and he's like, I didn't grow up on Disney, you know. And she's like, well, like the city in Colorado. He's like, I didn't grow up in the United States either, so, you know.
Well, I personally really liked Frozen.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a hotel here in Boston that is playing up the It's Winter thing, and so they've got a like a valet stand when you pull up with your car, where that they've made out of a block of solid ice. It has like their logo carved into the ice and whatever, and then they're projecting across their little courtyard where the cars pull in onto the wall. It's like playing 24/7. They're just playing Frozen over and over again. And it's
Those
like,
poor valets must be losing their mind.
I know. But yeah, so here's another cat. Hi, Pooh. Hi. He's like, it's my turn now. My brother.
He wants his moment in the sun.
Yes, each one will probably come by if we talk long enough. But this is the heavy one. He's like, oh, yeah, you need to go on a diet, my dear. But
So we have a few minutes left if you want to, let's see. I'm trying to think. Give me, before we sign off, your best publishing anecdote.
Best publishing anecdote. Oh gosh, let's see. I don't know, man. Publishing industry is almost as much fun as the music industry, that's for sure. Just, sorry, I've got it. All right, he's literally doing the elevator butt thing so that now his tail is directly in my face. Thank you, dear. Okay, so to talk, I have to hold it off to the side. But, gosh, I don't know. Best publishing anecdote.
Tara, do you have one?
I can't think of one off the top of my head. No, I should be able to, but I can't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Suitable for the internet. We're on the internet. Everything is suitable for the internet. That's like why it was invented.
Oh gosh. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. If you want to get a peek at the sort of wild times of the publishing industry, though, like the RT convention is actually really, really super fun. I mean, so like the party where Tara and I first met was a red wine and cupcakes party, where literally all they served was red wine and cupcakes, and there were free books. So it was like there were piles of books, and then around, and authors around the edges of the room, and in the center of the room was this giant display of like 40 flavors or 28 flavors or whatever of gourmet cupcakes, and then they had picked all the like cutest male caterers to going around passing red wine on glass, with glasses on trays. And it was like, I don't think we ate dinner that day. I think we just had red wine and cupcakes. And the result.
Whenever I get home from RT, I'm like, why? Where are all the cupcakes? Like, where are all the cake pops? Like, why is no one delivering these things to me? Yeah.
Well, it was so funny because people are like, the life of an author. That's like there's the two stereotypes. Like there's the you sit at home alone with a cat. He's in my lap now. At your computer in your bathrobe and your bunny slippers, and never talk to anyone. And then there's the red wine and cupcakes. Like, romance authors must be so glamorous, and you must eat bonbons all day and whatever. And I'm like, both these things are true.
You're like, really only once a year I eat bonbons. Yeah.
The Barbara Cartland dripping in diamonds, whatever kind of a thing. And it's like, okay, I was wearing rhinestones, but it's, yeah, it's just really funny. And people are like, so what are romance conventions like? And I'm like, well, actually, they are exactly what you picture.
I had a friend a friend's husband who said to me, I don't want to offend, but I'm just curious, do you wear costumes? I was like, that's not a, I mean, that you even thought, he's British, so maybe that. We do indeed. I was like, I have a whole box in the back of my closet that I pull out once a year with my wigs and my tiaras and
Right.
The whole 9 yards. Yep.
I've got corsets, I've got velvet tights, I've got all that stuff. But it doesn't. It only comes out once or twice a year. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't do research for my books by getting dressed up as the characters necessarily. I'm a method writer, but not that much of a method writer.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, so much for spending lunchtime on a Friday with me. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you guys in Vegas.
Yes. Thank you so
I
much.
will be there this year.
Oh, all right. Oh, and let's show your books one more time.
All right.
Tara,
Mhm.
Cecilia has taken the lead, and Tara has the master.
Yep. Thank
And
you so
guys
much.
should pick them up because they're great. All right. Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for partying with us.
Sure. Happy.
Bye.
Yep.